What is up everybody, my name is Tyler Potts and welcome back to a new video. In today's video we're going to be making a game in Unity. It's a 2D game. As you can see here, it's very simple. So the thing bounces across the walls and you have to try and hit, and as you hit it speeds up, so you have to start timing it right, else you will miss. And if you do miss, your game will restart. Your score will get set back to 0. Let's see if we can get that score up to 3. 1. Oh, I messed it up straight away. There you go. Well, you see, you get 1 score, and we get a second score, and I messed up. Score is equal to 0 again. So it goes up, and if you miss, it goes down. So let's crack on for your first ever game in Unity. And first things first, let's create a new Unity instance, and that is really weird. There we go. Cool. Let's close this Unity and let's open up Unity Hub. So this isn't a, I guess it's a how to make your first game, but I'm not going to be going through too much about how to set up Unity. I hope you guys would already know. Just the only thing I can say is go to unity3d.com and click get started, and this should bring you to a page, a download page. Here we are. So as you can see here, there's the Plus, the Pro. These both cost, but you can sign up to the Personal, which here is basically a free version of Unity for beginners. So you can use it for free. You click try, you download it. It should give you Unity Hub. And once you've downloaded that, we can then crack on. So if we go here and we type in Unity Hub, you'll be greeted with this page. You'll probably have a tutorial. You can skip through the tutorial if you like, and we can get started. So we'll create a new game. We'll click new. It's going to ask us what we want to call our name. So we're going to call this the, I don't know. What did we name in the other one? Bullseye. Because you're hitting a target. Yeah, smart. What's another pun on that? Darts. Kind of. Darts, kind of. Kind of or kind of? Kind of, off. Kind of. Kind of. Whatever. It's going to be a 2D game. So if you select 2D, actually, there's an empty sprite for a 2D. And we're going to hit create. And basically, this is going to load up all our assets, sort out our assets, and then once that's done, I'll see you when Unity is open. Okay, now as you can see, we have loaded into Unity, and this is what you are greeted with. This is a sample scene, and let's just quickly go over the editor quickly. So what you can see here is a load of stuff, which may overwhelm you at first, but trust me, it's not that hard when you get into it. So the first thing you'll see here is the scene view. Yours might look different to mine. If you go up to layout and I go default, this is what yours probably will look like, this here. But I have set mine up so the hierarchy and the projects are down at the bottom here, and they're in a split view. There we go. And there we go. So, yes. So we have a few items here. I'm just going to close this asset store because it's not needed. So this is how I have mine set up. You can choose however. You can change the view here by just choosing different layouts. But my preference is this one. Once you've got that done, we can then have a look in. So we've got the scene view, and this scene view is where you edit, modify, and like move stuff around. So there's the camera here. You can choose the camera. We're going to start off by changing this background color here. If you just click this, it should bring up a tool. But, oh, it's appeared on my other screen. That's why. Here it is. So we can pick a colour for the background. And I used a green in the last video, but in this video, we're going to use a bluey colour. What if we say that colour may be a bit darker? Trying to get a perfect balance here. There we go. That colour will do. Nice. So that's the colour we're going to be using for our background. Again, you don't have to use that background colour. You can choose any colour you like. And so that's that. The next bit is the game view. And this is what will happen when this is the view we will see when we're actually playing the game. But I've changed it to 16:9, the actual aspect ratio. You can choose any here, or you can just use free aspect, which takes up as much room as possible. As you can see in the camera here, the view has actually changed. So if we go back to game and we click to change it to free aspect and we go back to scene, you can see it's very widescreen. If we go back and we say 16:9, you can see it's become a 16:9 camera square. Again, this doesn't really matter too much. You just have to make sure all your elements fit on the screen as well with every different size. But for this tutorial, we won't need to. In here, we're going to create a new folder. So this is your hierarchy, your like where you have all your files and stuff. And on the left here is your actual hierarchy. So this is where your assets and your project files and stuff will be. And this is where your scene stuff is. So anything to do with your current scene will be in here. So the camera we have on our scene is in here. So let's crack on. So first things we need are sprites. And what sprites do is allow you to, sprites are basically like characters, like pictures, images you use as characters in game or items in the game. This sample scene I'm going to rename to prototype. I like to call things prototype for the test. Yep, let's reload the scene, and there we go. It's renamed it over here to prototype. And another folder we need, so back in assets, let's create a new folder, and this one is going to be called scripts, and we're going to be using C#. For those of you who are from JavaScript, who are from my channel and enjoy doing JavaScript, it's very similar. C# is just a little bit more strict, but we're going to be using a lot of Unity built-in functions anyway, which work across both. And if you go over to the Unity documentation and type in any of the functions I put in or anything I use, it will come up with the JavaScript equivalent too, so you can check how you would do that in JavaScript. It all compiles back into each other, so it's all used. You can use JavaScript and C# scripts if you really wanted to in the same game. You can't use them in the same file, because that would be, you'd be having to call it a .js C# file, which would be weird. So let's start with the actual making of the game. So first things we want to do is we want to create a new element, and we need to get some sprites. So I'm going to open up this sprites folder, and I'm going to quickly go to my sprites directory on the other screen. And I'm going to bring in two sprites. I'm going to drag in a square and a circle. You can easily get these off the internet or make your own, just literally a square and a circle PNG. I'm going to click both of them, and I'm going to make them 360 pixels per unit, which makes them a little smaller to the camera, because these come out huge on the actual screen. There you go, that's fine. We can, if we need to modify anything else, we can. By the way, you can just drag these into the screen now, and if you look in your hierarchy, you'll see them appear there. So this one, we're going to use as our target. So let's give this 0. We're going to set this position equal to -4. 3. We'll bring it forward a little. So basically, we're placing it inside of our screen. We don't want to give it, we're going to make it a bit wider, so I'm going to set the scale to 5 and that to be 0.5. Actually, we're going to say 4 and 0.5. So now we've got a little target here. And we're going to give this down here, and I'm going to rename this to target. So this is what we aim to hit. Oh, cancel, I don't want to do that. Oh, this scene has, for some reason, it's created a new scene, so we're just going to, what an annoyance. Scenes, prototype, we're going to call it prototype, save, replace, there we go, nice. So we've got that item. We next want to create a dart. So let's go to our sprites. Let's drag in this circle, and this is going to be our dart, or a ball, or whatever you want to call it. Let's give this a -4. But let's set the scale down. Let's say 0.25 and 0.25. Maybe a bit too small. Let's say 0.3. 0.3 and 0.3. Let's bring this like that and actually zoom in a little bit more. So as you can see, it is about that big, and that's what we're going to use to hit it, or hit the target. Oh, pardon me, sorry if I don't cut that out, I really need to yawn. And we can change the colour of these sprites if we want to. We can set it to red or black or whatever colour you wanted to. If we go into the game view, you can check how it actually looks in the scene. I don't like that. I want a white. I want to have a white and white items in this scene for now. That looks good. Okay, another thing we're going to add in is this, And we're just going to give this 0 and -4 as well. And this, we're just going to rename this in the, also we want to rename the circle to dart. And we want to rename this square equal to shooter, because this is what we're going to use to shoot out the darts. Just so you can have a reference to where it is. You don't actually need this to shoot out the darts, but it makes it a little bit more visual to have it there. Okay, so we don't need to do anything with that just yet. We want to go to the target. So we're going to set the target first. And what we want to do is add to this a box collider 2D. So this is going to add a collider. And what colliders do is allow things to clash with each other. So let's say if we shot the dart at this, it's going to hit off this. If it has its own collider, that is. And so this looks good, but we also need to add a Rigidbody 2D. And what Rigidbody 2D is allow you to add physics to your item. We don't want to simulate gravity, so we're going to set gravity to 0. We don't want any angular drag either, so we're going to set that to 0 too. Oh, we are going to... Oh, let's just set that to 1. Oh, I keep clicking it. I just want it to 1. So there's different body types. There's dynamic, which allows other forces to manipulate it, such as gravity, drag, linear drag, and stuff like that. There's kinematic, which means it can only be moved by script, and static, which means it can't be moved at all. But things can still bounce off it and such. We're going to add continuous collision detection. So discrete means it happens every few frames, and continuous means it happens every frame, I believe. So it means once our dart hits it, we're going to know straight away that hits it. The reason you would put it in discrete is you wanted to save a little bit on performance, and if it wasn't so important to actually hit the target or such, or it's just like you bounce off quickly and you don't worry about catching any collision detection or do if you don't want to modify just oh god, I'm like getting tongue twisted when I'm not even talking straight. So continuous basically means it's continuously checking, and discrete means it's not. Discrete is better for performance, but it also means it could end up skipping if it's thin, and let's say your item's moving really fast and your item just shoots straight past this. It could happen, but it doesn't normally happen, but it could happen. I'm going to freeze the rotation on the C so it doesn't start spinning round if we hit it. And I'm also going to freeze it on the Y so when we hit it, it doesn't push it back. I'm going to allow the X to move still because we are going to be moving this from left to right. We're going to leave the rest of it how it is. So we've got this now. Next up, we want to be able to make it move, but we need it to move to 2 different points. We want it to move to here and to here. And how do we do that? So first, we're going to create 2 empty objects. I'm going to call this the left point, and I'm going to set this equal to 3 and -7, which is going to be our left point. I'm going to duplicate this and call it the right point, and I'm going to set it equal to 7. I'm also going to reset the C axis to 1, and I'm going to check the left point, and I'm going to set the C axis to 1. So now we've got those both on the left and right. Up here, this little cube, you can set stuff so you can see it in the scene view. And I'm going to give these little red diamonds. These won't appear up in the actual game, but it's good so we can see stuff in the view. So these are the 2 points our target is going to bounce between. It's going to go from here to here. So let's create our first script. That's the next task. So let's click on target, and if you click add component and start typing, and we're going to say target, you'll see here it comes up with a new script. We can hit enter. It'll ask us for a name. We're going to leave it as target, and we create and add. Now if we go back to our assets, you'll see it's created this target script here. I'm going to drag this into scripts. Once this loads, is it going to load? Hello, go into scripts. There we go. And then I'm going to double click on it. So normally you would be using, why that's opened up in the wrong thing. Let me just fix that. So normally this would open up in something such as Mono Develop or Visual Studio, not Visual Studio Code. But I don't have those installed right now, so I'm going to be using standard. I'm I'm going to be using the standard, Visual Studio Code to edit my script. So here we are. Sorry for the delay, I'm just trying to get this all set up. And there we go. So let's open our script and let's close the sidebar. Yeah, I'm using this. Normally you'd use MonoDevelop or Visual Studio Code because they have come in complete with auto correct and all that stuff, all the stuff which helps you develop. But I'm choosing not to because I haven't got time to download it, and I may download it for a future video if we do any more game dev videos, but for now we will not. Anyway, so in target we want to set a few things, and the first thing we want to say is a public float called speed, which is equal to 2f, and the f here in C# stands for float. You don't have to pull it, but it helps if you do pull it. I'm going to also create a public, or not a public transform of left point, and we're going to reference this in the editor to a left point. We're then going to duplicate that and create right point, and then we're going to create a boolean which is called moving right, and we're going to set that equal to false. By the way, in C# you need to use your semicolons, because else it will throw an error because it's very strict. The last thing we want to reference is the rigid body 2D, and we're going to reference we're going to call that RB. So this is declaring your variables. You can either set equal to, or you can leave it like this. Public variables are able to be edited inside of Unity. So if we come back and we let it load, there we go, bit loaded. If I click on target now and we scroll down, you'll see here we've got a speed, a left point and a right point. So we're going to drag those in. So if you see here, I'm going to drag the left point. Oh, let me fix that. So if I click here and I hit this lock button up here, it will lock the inspector. So when I click other things, this doesn't change. So let's drag the left point into the left point, and let's drag the right point into the right point. And let's leave that speed at 2. So let's go up here and let's untick this so we can, so it's not always stuck there, and let's hit save. So that's not going to do anything. If we hit play, you're just going to see a very boring basic screen like this, which isn't very nice. And that camera color, sorry, let's fix that camera color. I didn't realize I made that so dark. I thought I made it a lot lighter for that. There we go, like that. That's a nice color. Hit save. Let's have a look. Yeah, color's a little better. So let's go back to our script. And in our script, we want to create something called a void start, which in Unity gets called, this function gets called as soon as this element, or this, what would you call it, the game object is placed into the scene. And we're going to say here, basically all we're going to say is rigid body is equal to get component, and we're going to say rigid body 2D. So what we're doing here is we're using rigid body, and we're saying it's equal to get component, which gets a component on this game object. And if we go into our target, these are the components on our game object, and you can see here we have a rigid body 2D. So all we're saying is get that rigid body, pulling it in these greater than and less than symbols, and then calling it as a function, and that will set this reference here to rigid body, to the rigid body 2D, where now we can use the rigid body 2D to add velocity and forces to the game object. Now we're going to create something called an update method or function, and you're going to see here that what update does is it's called every frame. So every single frame this update is called. So now if we, let's say, debug capital.log, so this is like a console log in JavaScript or pretty much any web language, and we're going to say debug.log, so this just prints to the log as you probably know, and we're going to say frame, hit save. come here, and now as soon as we hit play, it's going to quickly reload the scripts. We hit play, you're going to see in the bottom left, it says frame, and if I go onto this, you'll see that it's updating every second, which is updating every frame. Actually, it's 300 times being called already. So let's stop this before we make a mess. And let's delete this log, because we don't want that happening all the time. That would get annoying. And what we want to do in here is we want to say if transform, and when we say transform, this reference to transform. So if we go to our hierarchy and our target, you'll see here we have a transform on our elements, and this pretty much on any game object you put in other than UI elements, and that's what we're referencing. We're saying transform. Let's move to the right a little, and we want to get the position. So you see here the position elements X, Y, and Z. So we're going to say transform dot position dot X. We want to get the X-axis. It's less than or equal to, and this is where we're going to use the points we bring in. So we're going to say left point dot position dot X, and the reason we don't need to put transform with the left point is because we're calling it as a transform here. So when we dragged it in here, we're only getting the transform, so only this component of this element. So we're getting the X position of that, and we're going to say moving right is equal to true. So if we are less than, so if we go past the this left point here, it's going to set moving right equal to true, so then we will start moving to the right. And then we're going to do another one, which is going to say if transform.position.x is greater than or equal to right points.position.x. We want to set moving, oh, that's not moving right. We want to say moving right is equal to false. And the reason we're setting this here is because in another function called fixed update, I'll explain what that does in a minute, we're going to use this variable to say if we should move left or if we should move right. So let's do that. Let's create a fixed update method. And in this fixed update method, what we can write in here is if moving right, and we can then put our code in here. So the reason we're using a fixed update, so what this is called a set interval of times each. So this won't be called every frame, it's called a little less. It's a fixed update, it's called on a fixed frame count, and you can modify this in the settings, how many times this gets called. But this is where you would do all your physics calculations, such as you're adding velocity to your stuff, moving it other than using translating it. So doing like transform.position.x is equal to this. You would normally do that here, but otherwise you'll use anything you're using a Rigidbody to do, you'll normally modify it in the fixed update. So we want to say here Rigidbody, which we set a reference to up here, and we want to say move position. And what move position does is it basically allows the Rigidbody, the game object, to move between a position from its current position to this new position. So we're going to say rb.position because we want to get the current position, and then we want to add on a new vector 2. And what vector 2 is x and y basically. It stands for, it's a way of saying collating two pieces of data, the x and y. If you see up here we have a transform with an x, y and a z, that is called a vector 3 because you have x, y and a z. Vector 2 is just the x and the y values of this. So we're going to say new vector 2, and we're going to say right point dot position dot x because we want to get that plus speed. So this is going to be the speed we move at, and then we're going to set the y equal to 0f. After that we're going to times this by time dot fixed delta time. Okay, so now I need to explain this piece of code. So what we're doing here is we're setting a Rigidbody, and we're using a function called move position. So this is going to move our game object's position from this current position plus to this new position. So it's going to say new vector 2 is from the right point, the right x position, the right point's x position plus speed. So that's going to be the speed we move at. And then the y, we don't want to move at all, so we're going to set this equal to 0f. We're then going to say times, and then time.fixed out time. And what this bit here does is basically it calculates the time between two frames and minus it from the other one. So it means it's always going to be the same. So if you didn't add this and someone had a laggier computer or a slower computer than someone else, the speed of this, the target would move at different frames because it's not being normalized. With this, what you're saying is if the frame is slower, then make the scene a bit slow. So let's say if you're lagging, the game is also going to be lagging and not just making your game feel faster or such. I hope that makes sense because it's as best as I can explain it right now, but you know, I hope people know what a delta time is. And in if else, we're going to do the same thing, dot position plus new vector 2. This one we're going to say left point dot position dot x plus speed and 0f, and then we're going to also say time. I've done plus speed, but here we need to minus speed because we're heading into the negative values because we want to speed it up going down, not upwards. So we're going to say 0f and then time dot fixed delta time. Again, this is just the time between two frames, so it can normalize the between different frame rates of computers. And I think that is all we need right now. So if we go back to our game, we click this play. And as you can see, it's now moving between left and right between 2 points. And that's all you need. So that it's got the target moving. So now we have to hit this target. Although that target looks like it's moving pretty quick. Let's go back to our script or actually let's go in our editor quickly and let's set this to 1 for now. We're just going to keep it at 1 and then we'll slowly increment it every time we hit it. So if we press play, there you go. That seems a bit more hittable for me because I'm not the best at video games, I admit. Cool, so now we've got that. We need to be able to shoot at it. So if we go to our shooter or our dart here, let's move this dart up a little bit. So let's say -3 so we can just see it. What we want to do is add a script to this too, but first we want to add a circle collider 2D. And basically this just like a box collider but for circles instead. And on here we also want to say a Rigidbody 2D and we want to set it to dynamic. We want to remove the X and the Z rotate or constraints, so position and that, we want to freeze them. We also want to remove the gravity scale and the linear drag because we don't want these to affect it. We don't want it to be... God, why did I do that? I keep accidentally doing that. So basically this just helps out here. We now need to add a script to this though. So let's create a new script on it. So let's go Dart and let's go add component and we'll call this Dart. Just call a new script. We're going to create an add. It's going to add this new script. And if we go back to our assets, you'll see it's in there. Let's drag it into our scripts folder. So this should now be in here if I'm correct. There it is, our darts thing, and as you can see, it gave us the default stuff. I'm just going to move this onto the same line. I'm not a fan of it. I know it's what C# people do, and I'm sorry if I offend you, but I like having my curly braces on the same line as my method or function. So now we've got target up. Let's go into the dart. And in dart, we basically just want to get a couple of threat references. We're going to say here, public float speed, because we want the speed of the dart. We then want to say rigid body 2D, and we'll call it RB because we also need to get reference to the rigid body. So let's do another start method where we call RB is equal to get components, and it's a rigid body 2D, and let's call that so we can get that. We then want to call a fixed update again because we're going to be using physics, and we're just going to straight up say rb.velocity. So this is the velocity, so the speed, or well, the velocity of the game object. So we're going to say here new, is equal to new vector 2, and we're going to set x to 0f because we don't want it to be moving on the x-axis, but we're going to set the y equal to speed times time dot fixed delta time, and any movement you add for a rigid body or pretty much anything, you want to use times time.fixed delta time, because you don't want it changing depending on how fast your computer is, because that will give some people the upper hand and other people less of hand, if that makes sense. It also leaves it open to cheating, so people can use dropping frames like lag hacks to get past certain levels and stuff in your game if you had a level based game and so on. So we created this. Now if we go back into our game and we click on the dart, let it load, so it loads all the scripts. In speed, we're going to add this to, let's start off with something simple like 10. Let's hit save. Let's hit play. Oh, that's going extremely fast. Wow, we're going to hit it in no time. Let's up that to, let's say, 100. Oh, as you can see there, it hit the collider. Nice, but we don't want that. We want it to be a lot faster. Let's give that negative 100 quickly. That'll give it 200. Let's get back here quick. There we are. And let's now say 300. Do you think 300's fast enough? I think it is. So let's press play. By the way, if you are in play mode, anything you change in the editor will not be changed in the when you stop playing. It's only changed in the editor. So as you see, when I clicked unplay, it went back to 10. So we now need to rechange this to 300. And that should be good for the script, I think. So if we click play again, the ball is going to shoot straight off. But again, we don't want the dart to launch straight away. We want to have to click and spawn a new dart. And to do that, we don't need this dart in this prototype scene. So let's go back to our assets, and we're going to create a folder called prefabs. And the prefabs folder is basically going to store any items we want to be able to reuse. So we're going to take this dart and we're going to put it into this prefabs. As you see, we've got a dart prefab here. Now what we can do is we can delete it from our prototype, and now in any script, so for example in our shooter script, we can create a shooter script. We can drag and drop this into, let's say, how we drag and drop these 2 points into the target, and then we can spawn these shots every time we click or shoot a new, we choose to shoot. So that basically means we would, yeah, so it means it would shoot out our dart every time we clicked. So let's do that. So let's go on to our shooter and let's create a shooter script. Let's click add. Let's go back to our assets. And let's take our shooter script and drop it into our scripts. And again, it should be open in our editor here. So let's open up shooter.c#. I'm going to delete the base code and I'm going to move that up onto the same line as its class. And this one is very simple. So we're going to get a reference to our dart. So we're going to say public game object dart. And we're going to say void update. And in the update, we're going to say if input.get mouse button down. And what this does is basically it says it checks for any mouse input you do. And in here, you can put 0, 1, or 2. And what 0 is your left mouse click, 1 is your right mouse click, and 2 is your middle mouse click. So we want, normally you'll use the left, so we're going to check for the left mouse. So if we're clicking down the left mouse button, we're going to instantiate. So what this does is mean spawn or create an element, and we need to pass through, or instantiate as it says. And we want to pass through the dart. So we want to instantiate the dart, which we have here as a game object reference. And then we want to say where we want to spawn it. So we're going to say transform.position. And what transform.position means is it's going to spawn it at the shooter element. So it's going to shoot it at this game object here. It's going to spawn it right here. We're then going to set so this is the rotation for the next one. And we want to set something called quaternion.identity. And what this means is basically don't give it any rotation, spawn it as it is. And the reason you use this, you could sell it as for rotation stuff as well, but this one basically means give it no spawn. This one you'll be using most normally anyway. So let's go into our game. This should all be done, so let it load. But now on the shooter script over here, we need to drag our dart. So let's go into our prefabs and drag our dart in there because that's what we want to spawn. If we hit play and let's start, as you can see, you can shoot the dart. Hey, we hit. Nice. But we don't want it to hit and then to stop hitting. We want it to do something, right? So let's head back over to our scripts. Let's go to our target script, and in here we want to also set some new things. So just above our speeds variable, I'm actually going to say public int score, and we're going to set that equal to 0f. So this is going to be the score for the game, or 0, not 0f because it's not a float. And now down here underneath fixed update, we're going to use another Unity method, and we're going to call void on collision enter 2D. And what this means is when something collides with this target game object, it's going to call this function, and we're going to pass through a collision 2D, and we're going to call it col. So we're giving it a reference to what it is, and then we're calling it col. So now we want to check what's actually hit the target. So we're going to say col.gameObject.tag, and we're going to set this equal to dart. So what we're saying here is if the collision game object, so the item what's hit it, has a tag of dart, we will debug.log hit. Now if we hit save and we go back, if we click on this, our prefabs, and we click on our dart, you'll see we've got a tag element, and what we want to do is go add tag. In here we want to create a new tag, and we'll call it dart. We also want to create a few more, so we want to create a target, and we could also create a shooter, but we're also going to create one called backboard, because we're going to have a backboard behind it to check if we've missed, but for now we'll leave that out. So let's click back on our dart, and where we have a tag we want to click dart. We also want to go to our target and add on the target variable and hit save. So now we'll know if we've hit. So let's hit play, and let's try and hit this. This is not going to work out right, is it? Oh, I missed. Hey, we hit, and if you see in the bottom left here we get the hit log. Let's clear that, and let's stop this playing. So let's go back to our script. Now, so we've hit it, right? But we don't want it to hit. We basically want to say score plus plus. We want to increment our score. We also want to say the speed is plus equal to 0.25 float. So the speed up here, we're going to increase it every time we hit it by 0.25 to make it a bit faster every single time. We then want to say destroy, and we want to say col.gameObject. And what that means is we're going to destroy the game object for the collider what hits it if it's got the tag of dart. So if when we hit with the dart, we're going to increase the score because we've got a point. We're going to set the speed of the target a bit faster, and we're going to destroy the game object. Now let's go back in here and let's hit play. When it loads, it takes its time sometimes. There we go. So now it's going left and right. Let's try and hit. If I shoot and I hit, you see it disappears, and we should have a better score. So if we click on our hierarchy and we click on target, you'll see our score is now equal to 1. So let's see if we can hit it again. Oh, I messed up. Wait, if I should shoot loads of times. Hey, we hit it, and we hit it a few times. Now our score is equal to 4. Remember, you're not going to be able to shoot that fast, and well, you can shoot that fast, but you're not going to be able to. If you miss, you fail, you get resets. You don't want to do that, but that was just for testing. So let's go back to our game. So now we'll get a score, but how do we display the score to screen? We want to see it on screen, right? So if we zoom out a little and we right click here and we go UI and text, you'll see up here we've got this massive canvas, which is fine. It can be massive. This looks big, but in the game it's going to overlay our actual screen. It just looks massive as a separate canvas to our camera. So in here we're going to set this to text to this equal to score, and we're going to set equal to 0 to start with. We're then going to set align by geometry and best fit. Also going to set it equal to white because it makes it easier to see. And you know what, we're going to make it bold. And we're going to make it all caps. There we go. So let's move this. So let's click here and we're going to anchor it to the top left. We're then going to set the top left, and then we're going to set the pivot to 0 and the Y to 1. So this basically means set the X pivot to this 0, this left side, and the Y pivot to the top. So we're in this top left corner. So we can set the X to 0 and the Y to 0. Let's add a negative 15 on that and a 15 on the X. And actually it sets it there. So if we go to our game view, you'll see it sits up in the top left corner of our game view screen. Now, how do we modify that when we actually go to create a new, or when we actually score? Let's do this. So up in our target, because this is what's going to manage our score, we want to also create a public text equal to score UI. But before we do that, we want to use something up here. We need these are called namespaces. And where we've got Unity Engine, we want to duplicate that and say Unity Engine.ui. And what this is going to do is basically allow us to use UI elements inside of this. So now you see we've got this text element. This is a UI element. So we need to call this namespace so we can use it. And we're giving it a name of UI. And what we're going to do is go down to here. So every time we score, we don't just want to score it. We want to say, what do we call it? Score.ui or score UI.text is equal to score. And then we're going to say plus score. And that should be as simple as that. Let's hit save. Let's go back in here and click on our target. And in our little script here, it asks us for the text, which is this canvas item down here. And hit save. Now, if we hit play, now we should be able to keep track. I'm just going to spam click for now. As you can see, every single time we hit it, our score goes up. And up. And up. Cool. I find it quite hard to hit this target. So for now, I'm going to actually make it a little bit bigger. So let's zoom back in. If you click on a game object and you press F in the scene view, it will zoom straight into that object. Although it seems to have disappeared from the scene. Oh, I set its X to 0. We want to set it back to 4. There we go. So we actually want to set this, let's say, equal to 5, and this, let's say, to 1. We'll make it thick, just so it we can see it a bit better. So that should be fine. That should continue doing what it's doing, just a bit bigger so it's easier to hit for now, because I'm not very good at games. You can make it as hard as you want, make it smaller, make it faster, whatever you want to do. For me, I just need to make it easier, alright? Don't judge me. Cool, so now we've got that. We actually want to have a garbage collector, but also we want to say if we miss a shot, we want to basically restart the game. So let's do that. Let's go in here and let's create an empty object. We're going to call this the backboard, and let's just move this up above target, up above, man, down below that. There we go, backboard. Let's reset the transform for now, but also set the Y equal to 5, so it's up in this top point here. Let's give it a tag of backboard, and let's add a box collider 2D, and let's add a Rigidbody 2D. And let's just basically remove the gravity scale now, and let's freeze it on all angles. We don't want it to move at all. We just want it to be frozen in place. And let's hit continuous as well, because we want it to have a continuous hit marker. Let's make the X of this 3, or we'll say it equal to the same as the thing. So we'll say 5. Oh wow, that's a lot bigger though. That's fine. We'll leave it like that. So 5 on the X, just so we can't miss. I know we can't anyway, it's going to go straight, but you never know. Something might happen. The ball might spin out of control randomly, and we need to catch it. It probably won't happen, but don't judge me. I keep saying that. Now, instead of creating a new script to go onto this backboard, we can actually use the Dart here, and we can use the Dart script. So let's go over to the Dart script. Let's open it up. And on the Dart script, we want to add in a void on collision enter 2D. We want to say collision 2D, and we're going to call it col. And then we're going to say if col.gameObject.tag is equal to backboard. That's backboard. And then we're going to do something. So we're checking if what the dart hits is the backboard, and if we do hit the backboard, we're going to say destroy. Actually, we don't even need to do that. We can just restart this scene. So to do that, we need to use something called UnityEngine.scene management. So this is another namespace which allows you to modify or use the scene manager. And down here, we're going to say scene manager dot load scene, and we're going to say scene manager dot get active scene dot name. So what this does is it basically loads this current scene, this funky line here. All it does is this scene manager, and then it loads the scene which is equal to the scene manager which is equal to this scene, so to get the active scene dot name. That's a mouthful, but basically this gets the name of the scene we're currently using, and this loads that scene. So it's going to reload itself basically. So if we hit the backboard, it's just going to reload the game. You could do some other thing where you reset the score manually, saying score is equal to 0, and you continue on and you set like all your speed back, your target speed and that back to normal. But I would rather just reload the scene in this tutorial. It's a little easier. But if you guys can do that, then great. Try and do it. I hope you do. I want you guys to explore once you've watched this video, try new things and see what you can come up with. So that's all that will do. So let's go back in and let's hit play. Now, there we go. So it's loaded and then it moves. So I'm going to shoot. I missed, and I here actually see the scene reloaded. But let's see if we can hit to get a score. There we go. We got one score. And I missed, and actually it gets reset, and everything gets reset. You don't really notice it because it's quite fast. So let's see if we can hit again, and again, and again, and again, and again. Oh, I missed it, and there we go. Back to 0, and everything works. So that is it. That is the game working. But now let's say we want to make it a bit prettier. Let's say we want it so when we hit the target, the ball explodes, right? And makes like a little particle effect. To do that, we need to create a particle effect. So we want to go in here, effects, and create particle system. And as you can see over there, it's launching out. Let's reset the default here just so it's in the center. And it's kind of launching everything out. We want to do a few things. We want to set looping off, and we want to set the duration to 0.1 because we want this to be a quick burst. So when it explodes, it's going to quickly burst. So you see here, if I press play, no, it's going to happen. We're going to leave the... So let's actually get shooting zone. So let's go to the shape. We're going to set this equal to a circle, and over here on the oh, there is no rotation. Is that right? When is that ever worked out right to start with? All right, I'm just going to pretend I know what that is. And in here, we're going to go to emission, and as you see, it says rate over time. We're going to leave that default, but what we want to do is we want to burst. So we're going to set a burst, and we want it to burst 30 particles straight away over this time. So now if we hit play, bam, you see it shoots out 30 particles straight away. But it's all right, but let's go down here and let's make it look a bit better. So let's go to our, is it texture sheet animation? I believe it is sprites. So we want to set that to sprite, and the sprite we want to select is it going to let me select one? Is it on my other screen again? Click, do I have to click the add? No, minus. Hello? Oh, do I have to drag it in? Are you being weird? Okay, normally that would just work. I don't know why it's being weird, but we've added the sprite in there. Let's go to the renderer, and we also want to change this default particle system. So if we click on this, sorry about that. Okay, it's being a really big pain in my butt right now. Normally when you click on this stuff, it opens up. Oh, is it because I'm in this view? What happens if I set this to the one column layout? I prefer this layout. And if I click this, no, it's opening up the default particle one. We don't want that game. You worked earlier for me. Why are you not working now? If I click this dot, it should please. Oh, okay, it is, guys. I'm being a fool. It's on my other screen. Why can't I get down there? Here we are. There we are. Here it is. And basically, we want to click the sprite default. So now that if we press play, you can see it's the sprite we selected, which is fine, and that looks fine. But they are a bit big, aren't they? They look way too big. So if you go over here to in the first part, and we go to the where is the size? Size. Start lifetime. I guess that should be 1 or 2. Does it play? Yeah, 2 seems fine. Start speed. So we're going to set this between 2 constants, and we're going to say it's going to either be, the speed's going to be 5 or it's going to go at 15 speed. So now if we click play, you can see some are shooting off a bit faster than others, which makes it look a bit better. I'm trying to find the start size. There we go. So here we want to say random between 2 constants. We're going to say 3 or 4 and 8. And I don't want to tick that. Now let's hit play. Oh, that's way too big. That's way too big. I meant 0.25. 0.25 and 0.5. Hit play. There we go. That's a bit better. And you know what? I want it 0.75. Actually, no, 0.5 is actually good. I like 0.5. There's a lot of trial and error when you do this. I'm going to set 0.2. Let's hit play. There we go. So some smaller, some bigger. I'm actually going to set that lifetime to 1. Actually, 2 and 1. We'll say 2 and 1. So some of them last a bit longer than others, but then they slowly disperse out. Nice. That's good. But now let's say we want it to shrink over time too. So we're going to say size over lifetime. Click the tick there, and I'm going to click this curve. Or should I say random between 2 curves. And it's not random, is it? We do want the curve. We can edit it. So yeah, we want to drag this up and this down. Optimize. There we go. Now, if we hit play, you can see they get smaller as they go. They shoot out and they slowly get smaller. That just makes it a lot more visually pleasing, and that is good. So we're going to rename this to explosion effect, and we don't actually need this, so we're going to drag it into our prefabs. So like we did with the dart, we'll drag it into our prefabs and delete it from our scene. Now, in our target.shooter, let's go back into our script here and go to our target, and at the top we're going to say where is it, underneath the right point and the left point, we're going to say public game object explosion effect, and we're going to go down into our collision. So when we actually collide with it, just before we delete the game object, we're going to say instantiate explosion effect with col.gameObject.transform.position. We're then going to say quaternion.identity. I think I spelled that right. Q-U-A, oh no, it's quaternion. Quaternion. There we go. That seems about right. Let's add a semicolon, and that should initiate our effect. So if we come over through it and we scroll down a little so we can see our script, it's asking for the explosion effect. Let's drag that in, hit save, and now let's hit play. Now let's see if we can actually hit it. Boom, Ash, see, after we hit, it makes a little explosion effect. Boom. Oh, we missed, and it reset. There you go, guys. So that is your first game in Unity 3D. We made a 2D game, I know, ironic, even though it's in Unity 3D. It's just called Unity nowadays anyway. It's not called Unity 3D. It's what it used to be called. But yeah, so that's your first game. I hope you learned something new. If you did, hit that thumbs up button and don't forget to smash that like button. Wait, that's the same thing. Oh God, what am I talking about? Hit that sub button and don't forget to ding that notification bell so you know exactly when we go live, or when we upload a new video, or when we go live. You'll be the first to know. Other than that, guys, I'm sorry for just uploading videos really slowly recently. Had a new baby, and unfortunately the baby takes a lot more priority than my YouTube channel. We'll be back hopefully in the future with a lot more videos, but for now we'll dial it down a little, and I will get videos out occasionally. And just leave your suggestions down below in the comment section, and I'll make sure I try to get those videos what you guys want done. If you enjoyed this game development video, I'm looking into making my own game development channel, because I want it to be separate from my web development channel, because I feel like they're slightly different topics and I can do different things with my game development channel with this. Don't worry, it won't take away from this channel. Just let me know what you think in the description. Other than that, guys, if you did enjoy the video, you can come join us over our Discord server and let us know there. The link's in the description. And I want to thank all my Patreons who have all amazing support, even though I've been away doing baby daddy stuff. They've all been amazingly supportive, and I really thank them. So they're going to show up on when the video ends, so don't forget to check them out. Other than that, guys, thank you for watching, and peace out.
Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong, always moving on. Feel I don't belong, tell my thoughts to move along. Push myself to be the